Let's see. Hey guys, here we are, the Quiggin Out MMA Podcast. I know we went right back to StreamYard, but we were having some technical difficulty, so I'm so thankful for Sarah. I mean, honestly, this is somebody I've been watching since her amateur career started in 2014. She's been away for a while, so I just want to introduce my guest, Sarah Chucky Kleczka. How we doing, Sarah?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. I appreciate you sticking through all the fun stuff we were going through. So, at the end of the day, it's fight week, and I really just want to talk to you a little bit more, to kind of introduce people to who you are. I mean, you've been away for the game for 3 years now, so I kind of want to talk about what had you walk away, and what you've been doing, and how this opportunity came to be, and why you're back.
Yeah, at the end of 2018, after my last fight, I was living in Florida training American Top Team, and I moved to Kansas where most of my family is. Just kind of something I felt like I needed to do. I immediately started training when I got up here at Glory MMA, who I'm fighting out of. And transitioning to a new job and to a new gym was really hard for me. And transitioning to a new gym was really hard because I was 6 years at American Top Team. So then you know, everybody knew who I was around town and in the gym. So I was a stranger to people. So I trained for a while. I was supposed to have a fight in 20, I think 20, last year I was supposed to have a fight.
Hmm.
I was supposed to fight Brooke Mayo. And that fell through because the promotion fell through. Then I was supposed to box earlier this year, I was supposed to box, and then I hurt my knee, so that fell through. So, I've been pretty consistently training. There was a few months that I actually took off completely, but there's always that thing in your head, do you want to keep fighting? Are you done fighting? Are we, So, I'd been training for the most part for the last 3 years. So I decided that I was just going to do it. I just need to fight. And, because I've been wanting to, and you kind of get that back and forth thing, the longer you take off, but I'm excited. So it'll be probably a little bit of ring rust, maybe for 30 seconds. Then I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember this.
Well, and that's exciting to hear. Like you said, you go from somewhere that you were for so long, where everybody knows who you are. You spent the entire portion of your amateur career fighting for the WCFL, the World Class Fight League, in connection with ATT Tampa and everything else. So I can't even imagine what it was like after 6 years to start from scratch, not only in a new gym, but a new state, all new people. So, how have you been able to overcome that? To prepare you for this fight that is literally happening on Saturday.
Yeah, I definitely had to kind of change my mentality a little bit and get over the fact that not everybody knew who I was and not a lot of people knew who I was, which is okay, because the extra attention that I used to get I don't get anymore, obviously, but it totally makes sense because I am not established. I wasn't established here like I was in Florida.
Hmm.
But I adjusted eventually, and I kind of went through a time where you know, depressed and not really training and just, kind of lost myself for a little bit. So I spent a lot of time finding myself and trying to fix things that weren't making me happy. And
Hmm.
so I think through all that, and then I finally, I was working at a dental office, and then I switched to, I work as a trainer at 9 Round. I switched my jobs because it just wasn't really good for my career if I wanted to. And I switched so that way I had more time to train.
Hmm.
So I just did things to adjust to that
Hmm.
to be able to do what I wanted to do. And that helped a lot.
Well, yeah, and being a dental office fighting, I feel like there was probably some scrutiny there with people going, "Really, this is what you're doing?"
Yeah. I mean, it just I've been working at 9 Round since the beginning of June, and I lost 30 pounds because I stopped sitting all day. I'm constantly moving. I'm working out when I'm working. And it's something I love to do because one day I'm going to open up a gym,
Hmm.
teach kids and, adults or whatnot. So, it's more of a career path that's going to help me invest in my future. don't get me wrong, I loved the people I worked with at the dental office. It was great, but it just wasn't something like that was benefiting me for my future and for
Mhm.
like my, my state of mind at the time. So, I just had to step out and make that change, and I'm a lot happier for it.
Yeah, and just talking to you now, and I remember seeing the fight announcement. I was really excited to see that just because it had been a while, and there was really no. I don't want to say there was no reason for you not fighting, but the move kind of seemed like something sudden. It kind of happened, and then it's completely life changing. So, talk about why this promotion, why this fight, being probably being the fact that it's a Kansas promotion, but one that's kind of starting up, and you see these popping up all the time. So, why this promotion and why this fight?
So originally, so the guy who owns the show trains at Glory MMA in the North location, and then um, the coach Zach Cummings, they're partners in the show. So it's
Mhm.
kind of like convenient and local. Um, Originally, I was supposed to work the show, and then the guy who owns it, JW, he's like, "Oh, do you want to fight?" And I was like, well, if you want to find me a fight, sure. I've been training, so why not? So he found me a fight, and so I went from working the show to, you know, fighting at the show. So it kind of just fell into my lap, and something that I was like, the opportunity is there. I need to take it. I need to get back in there and see how it feels, and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And training with guys like Zach Cummings, I've been able to talk to him a few times over the years. Just always a character, always somebody who's so passionate about it, and that group of people. So I can't imagine that's not a bad place to be. So kind of talk about how that's become your home. Finding a gym like that after leaving one for 6 years. What are the changes that you've seen that have improved not only your skill set but maybe your mindset going into this fight on Saturday?
Just the consistently training with everybody and getting to know them, and having that personal relationship as well as the training relationship. I train at the Lee Summit location in the mornings, where James
Mhm.
Krause is the coach, and then but for like the first 2 years I was here, I was at the Gladstone location where Zach teaches,
Mhm.
and I picked up on a lot of new things between both gyms, and the fact that both coaches are like currently fighting, I feel like I learn a lot about like, because the game evolves. The game's always going to
Mhm.
evolve. And so like a fighter 10 years ago is not going to have the same skill set as a current person that's fighting, or so I feel like that's kind of helped me a lot. And I just see a lot of different views of things from both gyms. Like both classes I go to at both gyms are completely different, but they're both extremely beneficial at the same time. Um, I have just gotten to know a couple people really well at the Gladstone location where Zach coaches, and at the Lee Summit both. But just having the team members to want to help me, and you know even though I haven't been around very long, trying to like let me in the in crowd and stuff like that. So I think that's
Yeah,
helped a
you're
lot.
you're the odd woman out in that sense, like,
Yep.
and I don't think there would be a better time for you to be under someone, or associated with somebody like Kraus, just because in the last few years, James Kraus has just exploded as far as his coaching has gone. Not only his coaching, but his fighting style, trying to, taking fights on short notice, just doing crazy things that have impacted not only his career, but everyone around him. So 5 years ago may not have been the best time to be, him be your coach, but now it just seems like he's ready to create the next wave of fighters that are coming up. And I still consider you to be one of those because you're only 4 fights into your professional career. You've still got a
Right.
lot in front of you and you've still got that drive to fight. So having somebody like that, I feel like is only going to do wonders for your career moving forward.
Yeah, definitely that, and like the people that you surround yourself with makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. So let's go all the way back to the beginning and kind of give people, an insight to who you are. Because like you said, in Tampa, I'm local. I went to all those WCFL, so I got to see almost every fight of your amateur career, got to get to know you. But for those who don't know you, why are you a fighter? Why is this something you're passionate about and that you love?
So I played sports through like all my middle school and high school, like volleyball, basketball. I was always super, athletic and into sports and competitive. So when I graduated high school, I didn't really go to college. Like I went to a college for a semester, but not really. So I wanted to find something to stay active. So the guy I was dating at the time, Ben, he's a wrestler, but he was also training at American Top Team, which was world class martial arts before, but now it's American Top Team Tampa.
Mhm.
And so I started taking like Taekwondo classes over there. And I did that for like 8 months. And then I saw some of the guys like getting ready for fight. And I was like, what do what's going on? And they're like, oh, we're going to fight. And I was like, what? I want to do that. Like, got me really excited. So I told my coaches and they're like, really? You want to fight? And I was like, yes. And so they kind of like didn't take me seriously at first, but like got me a fight anyways because I kept bothering them about it.
Mhm.
So then the first girl I fought, Angel Keel, that was my debut. And I won by split decision. So of course I was like, oh, I won. And so I loved it after that and just went up from there. So
And that's crazy because that fight was super close from what I remember. But for
mhm.
somebody, like you said, making their debut and not training for very long, you see a lot more and more where people say, "Hey, I'm interested in that," and they take a fight a week later, they take a fight 6 months later. It's crazy because you could not do that in any other sport. You could not just walk yourself onto a football field and say, "Hey, I
Yeah.
want to be a quarterback." Like it just doesn't work that way. So
Yeah.
just the parallels there doesn't match anything else that's out there.
Yep, that makes sense. I've never really thought about it like that before, but yes, that is definitely true.
Well, and it's something we always talk about it. Fighting's been something that's been ingrained to our culture since all the way back. You can go back as far as the Romans and everything else and the Colosseum and everything like that, where we've always been prone to violence. People might not like to admit that they enjoy watching violence or watching fights, but like you said, we just passed what are we at? The 28th year of the UFC, 29th since 1993. So we're at 28 of the 28th anniversary of UFC 1. It's changed so much since that first day of people trying to get thrown out of cages and boxing gloves and the different styles. So, as you've seen and as you've already said, it's always evolving. So, how do you feel the landscape has changed since you left to now? And how do you going to use that as your advantage?
Um Again, just kind of like learning new things. Obviously like applying what I have learned in the past or what I've been taught in the past. But just, training with people that are better than me and that are more knowledgeable than me obviously helps a lot. Um I just seen the game evolve so much even in the last 3 years that I, haven't fought. Um and obviously every time I go to a fight, I'm like, oh, I want to fight.
I want to fight.
But right? But I mean, just being around people who are, consistently fighting and they can teach you things that they're learning because, I mean, the sport's changed so much since the beginning. Like, even from when I was started fighting, is 7, 8 years later. Like, it's a long time. So, and the UFC is definitely way different now than it was back when it first
Yeah.
started. So,
Yeah, it was a little crazy even watching some of the fights from 5 years ago, let alone 28 years ago, where you're seeing, how the sport has evolved and how it's grown. And like you said, being around people who might have fought 2 weeks ago or getting ready for a fight in 2 weeks, that's got to have such a much better impact because you have somebody like Kraus who could come back from a fight and go, okay, this worked for me. I think it'll work for you. Let's try it. Or Zach could come back and, vice versa. Whereas, like you said, it's not to say a coach that hasn't been in the ring, recently doesn't have the same ideas, but as far as putting into practice, that's where everything kind of changes.
Right, exactly. Yep.
So, one thing I do know a lot about you is how important family is. I've had the pleasure of meeting most of your family when it comes to the fights, and they always made sure to make sure I got a picture of them cheering you on. So, I kind of want to talk about how important they are to you. Yeah, I'm like, you already knew that, but it was always so funny because I'd hear my name and I'd turn around and they'd all be posed, ready to go. So, talk about how important it is
So fun.
to have them behind you and supporting you the way that they do, because I will say this, they're quite eccentric.
They are. It's pretty awesome. My parents came to my very first fight, and then the couple of last fights I had in Kansas City, they were at, obviously, because they were living here before I moved back,
Mhm.
or before I moved here. And my mom comes to the fights and she just hates it so much. Like, she comes because she wants to support me, but she does not like it. Which, what mom likes to see their daughter get hit in the face. But they'll always support me no matter, which way I go in it. And the fact that they do, like, and my older brothers always get super excited about it, which is really fun. So I'm, the couple that used to come to WCFL all the time. They're hilarious. But one of my brothers and his wife will actually be here because they live here too. So I'll have a pretty good group of, my family here. So it'll be cool. But it's great to have that support. Like, that's one thing about my family is that, like, whatever I decide to do, I always have their support, even if they don't like it. So it's really important to me.
Yeah. Well, and whoever's running the cameras at the promotion, please make sure to focus on them. They will not disappoint you. I can guarantee you of that.
Yes, you are correct.
Well, going through it, obviously we've got the nickname Chucky. Being a Tampa person, we've got to talk about that and why that nickname is so important and so fitting of you. So talk a little bit about how that nickname came to be.
So, as probably some people know, or most people know, my hair changes color so often. Anyways, at the time when I got that nickname, my hair was red, and my hair is naturally curly. So, like, when I'm training, it looking crazy. So one day, I, after like close to done training, I looked up at my coach, and apparently I looked crazy. He's like, "Oh my god, you look like Chucky." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "That should be your nickname." And I was like, "No, it shouldn't." And I did not like it at first. I was like, I hate it. And like, it, like, everybody embraced it and it got so popular, and then eventually I was just like, "Okay, this is cool." So that's kind of just stuck after that.
Which coach gave it to you? I have to ask.
Oh, Ralph Garcia.
I
Yep, he
had to
gave
know
he
it.
gave
So
me that nickname. Yep.
yeah, not surprised at all. Not surprised.
Yep.
But I get it, and it's in this day and age, sometimes the nicknames, I feel like nowadays, sometimes the nicknames are a little bit more accurate when it comes to fighters. It's not just something weird where, they're like, okay, that was a nickname you had 20 years ago. You're seeing these fighters have a nickname that kind of matches their fighting style. So if you were to create a
Right.
fighting style based on Chucky, what would you consider it?
I I mean, it'd be pretty aggressive, I think. I mean, Chucky is an aggressive person or doll or whatever you want to call it, but yeah, I think, being aggressive and relentless is a good way to describe Chucky. So, I try to portray that as much as possible in my fighting.
Absolutely. So with this fight coming up, not gonna lie, it's kind of hard to find the fight card. So can you tell me a little bit about your opponent that you've got coming up, and not to look past your opponent, but what does this do for your career moving forward? With a win.
So the girl I'm fighting, Brittany Cloudy, she also has fought on Invicta a couple of times. She fought about a year ago, was her last fight. So she's had a little bit of a break too, not as long as mine, but a little bit of a break. Um, I, she's she likes to box. She likes to, she has some good stand up. And so obviously I am training not to get nailed by her right hand because that would suck. But yeah, so we
I
are
mean,
the
that was
co-main event.
honest.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie.
But it's just like,
We're the
what's your game plan? Don't get punched in the face.
Yep, don't come out looking like an alien because the last time I did. So that's my goal not to do that this time. But to execute more of like my game plan for sure. And so we're both coming off of a layoff. Hers a little shorter than mine, but I think it'll be a good fight. I think it'll be who wants it more.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, her layoff, looking through it, her last fight was November 20th of 2020. And you guys are
Oh
fighting on
wow,
November 20th. So it's a year to the day. But
that's
if
weird.
anybody watched the Max Holloway Yair Rodriguez fight this weekend, a layoff doesn't always mean you're going to be, rusty. Like you said, about 30 seconds, you'll
Mhm.
probably go, okay, now I'm good.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I think so too. I think it clicks back pretty well. I think really it's just how I mean, if you're training in the gym like you're gonna fight, then you probably shouldn't have too much of a problem. I mean, you probably feel like you're gonna have better cardio than you actually do when you get in there, but I think that's most fighters.
Yeah, I think that's most everybody. There's times where, I think a perfect example is I hadn't trained in 3 weeks jujitsu, and I went in yesterday and I felt fresher than I did, but I noticed my cardio went a lot faster than I expected it to. So, you know, that was 3 weeks. We're talking, almost 3 years for you. So, how did
Yeah.
you? What was that mindset during the 3 years? I know, like you said, you had the move and you ended up changing jobs just recently, but what was the mindset there to keep you kind of focused and not letting go of this dream to fight?
I mean, just the training that I just still was training. Like there was a few months where I took off, but really like I was pretty consistently training, and I think that kept my mind in the game too. And like even if I was like, I don't need to go train, but I'd be like, but I really want to. And then of course I always feel great afterwards. So, it was kind of a back and forth thing for me, but I love it. So it's hard for me to stay away at the same time. So um I think that kind of helped me, you know, be want to be able to take this fight and feel confident enough, that I can succeed in it. So
Well, and I really do like the matchup, knowing more about Brittany. Just looking over the record, you guys have pretty similar records. Like you said, you both fought in Invicta, which kind of gives you a platform to get right where either one of you want to go. But like you said, just watch out for that right hand. I think those are the takeaways here. Watch out for the right hand. Don't get punched in the face. Don't look like an alien. I think that's a pretty solid game
goals.
plan. Goals.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about the gym and everything else. So talk about the transition from, like you said, the dentist office to the training now, because you immediately lost a ton of weight. You said 30 pounds, which is a considerable amount of weight, being that you were training all the time. So how much do you think that new job has changed your lifestyle and changed your ability to kind of focus on your fighting style?
I think it's definitely helped a lot. So just give you an example. When I was working at the dental office, I was maybe doing like 4,500 steps a day. And then if I went to the gym afterwards, like to run or something, I would maybe do like 10,000 to 11,000 steps. But now that I work at 9 round, I literally do like 11,000 steps in one shift. So the fact that like, I mean, I'm constantly moving and I don't sit for long periods of time. And, I'm constantly like, I'm holding pads for people. I'm showing people how to punch and kick. I'm walking around the gym. It's not like anything stationary about that job. And so I think that helped tremendously. Um, so we're fighting at 140 pounds. So we're doing a catch weight at 140.
Okay.
But I was like 180 pounds back at the beginning of the year. So, and, that was after, the time I went through where, just feeling depressed and, kind of lost who I was and stuff like that. And then when I finally started getting my life together and, getting back into training and working out, and then switching jobs helped, like, it all together just helped tremendously. And then, I learned moderation, which is hard, easy to talk about, but hard to learn, so.
Well, and it's funny because when I switched jobs, I did the exact opposite. I was working for Red Bull and I was doing 12 to 15 to 17 to 20,000 steps a day. And then I worked, in an office and I'm like, okay, now I've done 2,500. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We went to New York
Yeah.
last week and my average went, it was like 13,000 steps and my watch literally said, "Are you okay? You've done 15,000% more than normal."
Oh my God. I know. I get like up into the 20,000 steps, and that's not even like counting my training, my training time, because I don't wear my watch when I train. So it's
Show off.
crazy. It's way
You're like,
more.
I do 20,000 and that doesn't include when I train.
I know, right?
Never thought I'd have an entire conversation about step counters, but here we are.
You know what? Once you start doing it, it's really addicting. So
Yeah. Well, and that's like you said, it's no secret that fighting is a lot of mental, almost more than it is the physical aspect. Because if your mindset's not there, you'll see it. And I feel like that's kind of what we saw in the Nick Diaz fight a few months ago, where it just seemed like his head just wasn't there. Like you just didn't want to be in there, and his physical form kind of showed what it was. We saw that with Paulo Costa. Said he had an injury, but missed, technically missed weight twice. So I feel like he should have had to give up a lot more of his purse. But those are all mental things. There are things where you're saying, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't have the will to do this. And you kind of talked about that a little bit. And I don't want to pry too much, but like you said, you were feeling really down, really depressed. And as somebody who normally fights around 135, getting up to 180, it seemed like you hit a point where you said, everything's got to change. Like, I got to do this now if I want to continue this dream.
yeah. Pretty much what it came to. I just wasn't feeling good about myself. I was struggling to be motivated to work out and to train. But it is a big part of it is mental for sure. Physical, yeah, all that, but mentally, really, if you're not in it, like, you probably shouldn't be in it. But a lot of people go through it too. They go back and forth, and everybody has to struggle, at some point in their career, I'm sure. But you get to a point where, do you want to overcome it or do you not? And then what are you going to do about it? Like, are you going to work to fix it? So that's what I had to do, is work to fix it. So
Here we are. But I appreciate you kind of
yep.
devolving that, or I don't even know if that's the word I'm looking for, but you know what I meant. Like talking about that,
Yeah.
because it's not a subject that we really talk about enough. And again, with switching gears to boxing, Tyson Fury talking about all the mental things that he had to overcome, and you see that transformation. And so it is possible. And so with something like yours, like you said, it could have gone one way or the other. We could have been talking today or we not. You could be still working at that dentist office, unhappy, and you finally went and took the initiative to change. So I feel like you're kind of being rewarded with this fight, because you said it's the co-main event. You guys are jumping right back into it. So, does that
Yeah.
put any more pressure on you, not only adding in the layoff, but that you're, kind of in the spotlight when it comes to this fight?
I guess so. It's a pro-Am show, and so obviously we're going to be later on the card regardless.
Hmm.
Um, I would love to go out there and be the first fight and get it over with. Really, like, I hate waiting. I don't know if you remember, but my last fight with WCFL, there was like 26 fights, and I
Yeah,
was
oh,
the
yeah.
main event.
Yep.
And I was, I was like, when you're waiting in the locker room that long, you're like, oh my God, what am I doing here? Why am I doing this? Because then you get to think too much
Yep.
when you're back there. So I'm like, I'd rather just get in and get it over with. But I don't know exactly how many fights are going to end up being on the card. Probably like 13, but shouldn't be too bad. But I think the anxiety in the locker room is the worst part of it because you're like, as soon as you get in the cage, it's cool. You're like, okay, let's do this. But it's like that walk up and that getting warmed and everything. But yeah, it's crazy what goes through your mind.
Yeah, I remember those WCFL shows where it was like, all right, we've got 22 fights tonight. And we went, the whole crowd went, what?
Yeah,
20, 22? 26? Okay. Yeah, and at that point, you've got to fight at 1 a.m. at this point.
exactly. Yeah, it was a little rough, but it was cool. At least I got the experience of being the last fight, a couple of times. So
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things where, when WCFL did those cards, I mean, they put everything into it. And I think they were expecting a lot of the fights to drop off. And when they didn't, they were like, well, let's just run through it. And I remember one of the 22 fight cards, it was over by 11. So, I mean, it ran like they paced it perfectly, which I
is
wish the UFC,
cool because
yeah,
yeah, who wants to go to a fight and have like 6 intermissions? Like that's so
no.
annoying.
No, and it's kind of like watching, the UFC pacing. Like, I understand there's marketing, there's everything else that needs to happen. I'm like, but at the end of the day, if you've got 5 knockouts on your main card, and they're all in the first round, that shouldn't last more than an hour. Like, just,
Exactly.
just get
Yep.
it over with, move to the next card, because at the end of the day, people are there to watch the fight. So, you know,
Yep. Exactly.
I'm excited that you're going to have the family there because I've obviously seen you fight when you have family there. And I feel like they just kind of give you a little bit more energy. I'm assuming your mom's nervous energy is probably helpful too.
Yes, definitely.
So just want to save a part for, I kind of want to talk about the people that you want to thank. But before I do that, is there one person in the gym that has really pushed you, other than the coaches, but one person who's really pushed you to what you feel is like a new level for you?
Probably over at North there's a girl named Marissa. Um she's fought she fought, a few times. She has had a few knockouts. They tried to get her fights and people will be turning her down because they're scared of her. I've done a lot of one-on-ones with her recently and she's really helped me like see things that I didn't see before. Um, a lot of movement, a lot of, strategy for the fight and everything. So I appreciate her a lot for sure.
Fantastic. So now, like I said, is the part I just want to save for any sponsors you have, want to thank the people you have and tell people a little bit more about, where they can come to this fight or watch this fight on Saturday and where they can find you on social media.
So obviously want to thank all my teammates and my coaches for helping me get ready for the fight. Everybody that's supporting me, I have the dental office people coming to watch me. I have my 9-round people coming to watch me. So like, it's going to be a pretty big crowd. It'll be at the Hy-Vee Arena in Missouri. It used to be the Kemper Arena. So there's going to be a link for it. Anybody who wants to watch it online. And I'll be sharing that on Facebook and Instagram and stuff. My Facebook, Sarah Chucky Kleczka, and then my Instagram is Sarah_Chucky MMA. So if you want to come to the fight and you can't with me in person, you can go on the website, and then when you go to check out for your tickets, you can put my name in there, and it'll help me get a little bit of credit for that. But hit me up if you want tickets if you don't have them already. If you're in the area, it'll be a good one. It'll be exciting.
Well, absolutely. And then as far as any sponsors, anybody that you'd like to thank that's kind of helped this, be a little bit more easy on your bank account.
I haven't really had sponsors here in Kansas City, because I haven't fought under Kansas City yet. So like all my
Okay.
sponsors from my other fights were in Florida. So I don't really have any yet. So if somebody wants to sponsor me, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah,
But
we
not as
got to get some Kansas people. So I think I
yes,
know a couple
definitely.
guys that could probably help out with that. So let's see what we could do.
Cool. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll take a minute to, thank a few people of my own. We've got Epic Jits Tees that made the Quiggin Out MMA podcast shirts. I always try to do this, and I always do it wrong. So I've got Bertzo's Bake Shop. It's here in Orlando. Just some amazing treats. We've got La Barba Cubana. Keeps the beard fresh and smelling like whatever I want for the day. I used to have a Fat Boy Jiu-Jitsu pin, and somehow it got lost. So sorry about that, guys. And then, of course, we've got Tim Makes Knives on Instagram. I'll put the post up. One of my good friends, we actually have a knife that we're going to be giving away to a random guest. We're going to wait till we get to 50, do that. And it's a pretty significant blade. I'll send you a picture after the show to kind of give everybody an idea of what's going on. So on behalf of myself, Combat Press, Sarah, thank you so much. I know we had some issues at the beginning, but we made it
All
work.
good.
It's fight week. I hope you have an amazing fight on Saturday. I know I'm supposed to be unbiased, but remember, goals list. Number 1, watch out for the right hand. 2, don't look like an alien.
Yep.
3, don't get punched in the face. I think that's a pretty solid game plan, and I wish you the best of luck on Saturday.
Yes.
So,
Yep.
thank you so much, Sarah. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you. Yep.